Hello, everybody. My name is Kim. Something awful happened to me recently. I really need support and advice from you. It might seem strange what I'm going to tell you right now, but my life has been stolen. Everything started last summer. My second cousin Karen came to visit us for the first time. It was actually the very first time she had ever left her native tiny town, and she was pretty excited about everything. Of course, she stayed at our big house, and I was happy to share my room with her. At first, everything seemed to be really great. I took Karen everywhere I went and showed her the truly fun life of a city girl. She met all my girlfriends. We taught her how to follow the latest fashion trends, went to the spa together, explained why fast food wasn't the worst tasting thing ever, and even pushed her to get acquainted with a guy she really liked. I loaned her some clothes and cosmetics so that she really looked more like a part of our gang, you know? I was really proud of myself, and I saw how extremely happy she was about the rapid change in her appearance. Only one thing about Karen that annoyed me from the very beginning was that she was too subservient, so to speak. So at some point, my mom began to pit the two of us against each other and always said something like, "Why wasn't I as helpful as Karen?" or "as kind as Karen?" and things like that. This happened so much that Karen's helpfulness had become an annoyance to me. Anyways, that summer ended really fast, and Karen went home with tears in her eyes because she really didn't want to leave me, as she'd put it. I was also crying and had promised to miss her, although I was looking forward to having my room back to myself again. We even emailed each other until the end of the summer. Karen sent me a photo of her right after getting a new haircut. She now looked a lot like me, and it seemed a little weird, but nice. Virtually nothing seemed to be suspicious. But when the school year was about to start and I returned home from a regular movie and friends night, my mom told me that there was a surprise waiting for me upstairs. It was Karen. I was definitely happy to see her, but I wondered what she was doing here while she had to get prepared for her last year of school. She said that there was another surprise and that she was going to study at my school and in my class so that we could graduate together. It turned out she liked city life and life with me so much that she practically begged her parents on her knees to let her come back here. I was really happy for her, since I could only imagine how lame life in her tiny little town was. From the very first day of school, Karen tried to follow me everywhere I went and acted pretty much exactly like me. So by the end of the first term, I had started to notice that she was copying my mannerisms, my walk, and my sense of humor and stuff. She was now even eating the same way I was. For example, when she'd first arrived in the city, she would eat everything she wanted. But now she'd begun counting calories just like me. She also stopped eating pork, just like me. And she'd even started peeling the skin off of her apples, just like I did. So now, Karen, this once shy and polite girl, was totally gone. She wasn't shy anymore, especially hanging out with my friends. And once, a totally outrageous situation happened. I found Karen talking on the phone with somebody setting up a meeting. And when I asked where she was going, especially without me, she said she had to go meet with Emily, my Emily, behind my back. I couldn't let her do it. That's why I decided to ask her directly what she was up to with my friends, adding additional stress to the word my. I couldn't ignore the fact that Karen's smile became wider. She said that they were also friends of hers and that I was actually the one who introduced them. That's why now I shouldn't be worried about them preferring her over me, unless maybe I thought I was more interesting to hang out with. And then she left. And there I was, standing there in the middle of the room with this deep feeling inside me that I had created a real monster. I stayed at home for the rest of that day, trying to think over the situation and figure out some appropriate and strong words, to have a really serious talk with Karen when she came back. She came back pretty soon, and she was not alone. My parents happened to meet her halfway and gave her a ride. When they entered the house, everybody seemed really happy and harmonious, so to speak. I had even thought about how well Karen seems to fit into our family, and this thought made me sick. It was impossible for her to replace me, right? We weren't alone again until late at night, and I was the one who started the conversation. She was silent, but I could feel her tension and irritation. When I was done with my speech, Karen showed me her cell phone. There was a group chat with her and all of my friends, but I wasn't included. She said that she never meant to replace me totally, and that she was grateful for everything that I had done for her. But since my friends were more interested in hanging out with her rather than me, I was probably never interesting for them at all. It sounded like nonsense and was really offensive. I'd never experienced this type of cruelty before in my life, and I never thought that a person who I was sharing my room with would ever steal my life. We had a huge fight, and it was so bad that even my mom knocked on the door asking what was going on between us. Both of us said nothing and silently went to sleep. Since that, I've barely interacted with Karen. I didn't want to bother my friends by having them hang out with me, so I kinda ignored them. And even though they continuously texted me, I kept thinking that they were doing it deliberately. I was feeling so sorry for myself in this situation that I had almost forgotten about my birthday that coming Sunday. I had no one to properly celebrate this day with, so why should I be excited about it? When I woke up that Sunday morning, I felt the day was already ruined because my nasty brother was screaming downstairs that my birthday cake looked better than his or something. I knew the family was about to enter my room to congratulate me. It was a sort of our tradition. So I was lying in bed waiting for them to appear. But when they entered my room, I was so surprised that I even screamed. Everybody was there with the cake. Not only my family and Karen, but also every single girl from my group of friends. It definitely wasn't what I had expected. Everybody laughed and began hugging me one by one. And once all the excitement had settled down, Karen approached me. She said she was really sorry for her behavior, but our fight was a part of her master plan to surprise me for my birthday. I had brought her to life with everything I did for her, and she had finally figured out a way to thank me. I was in shock. It was a good shock, I think, but still shock. Of course, I'd accepted her apology and her wrongly chosen way to please me, and I was no longer angry at her. However, now that some time has passed, I still think her behavior was slightly weird, and deep down, I hope we go to different colleges.
Hi, I'm Patrice, but my friends call me Patty. I've always had a dream to become popular, like a real superstar or something, so that everybody would see me and whisper, "Hey, that's the girl," and stuff. I've been working so hard for my dream come true for the last year, and it did come true. Sort of. Everything started when I first saw the first bloggers on the internet. I was amazed by their lives and their abilities, financially, I mean. For me, it seemed to be the easiest way to success and fame, so I decided to become a blogger myself. However, I faced my first problem as soon as I started. because I didn't know how to blog. I would just post pretty much everything. It was like, here I'm going to school, or hey, look at my lunch today, and so on. Of course, I had some followers, about 500 people I guess, but they were either my friends and family members or some advertising accounts, so it didn't satisfy me much. I even tried once to devote my blog to my hamster, Polly, but she seemed to be a totally unsocial animal, and that idea failed. Once I was sitting at home and looking through my blog page and all the posts on it, I could feel how pathetic my blogging efforts were because my photos were far from being like the ones I'd seen on my favourite bloggers' pages, and my texts were definitely not a philosopher's thoughts. I had almost decided to give up my idea when I suddenly realised that somebody somehow showed up in almost every photo and video of mine that was taken at my place, except for me, of course. It was my creepy neighbour Alan who lived across the street from me. He had recently moved to the neighbourhood with his parents, and he was totally weird. He wore the same long-sleeved shirt whenever I saw him in real life. Nobody talked to him at school, as far as I knew. Some people even thought that he had some mental and psychiatric disorders. Of course, he seemed to suddenly get caught by my camera's lens, either appearing from around the corner or staring from his garden at me while I was taking a selfie in my own garden. But I felt strange about it. I shared my thoughts about probably being stalked by a local weirdo, and that was it. My followers seemed to want to share my page with their friends or something, because I got a couple of 100 more subscribers that following week. Of course, the majority of my fans, so to speak, were from our town, but it didn't matter. My fame had found me. Once 2 girls had even come up to me at the local mall to say hi, and they said they knew me because of my weird neighbour. I kept posting my regular photos, but this time it had turned into a quest for my followers to find a stranger in them in the comments. This excitement over me being famous lasted, for me, no more than 2 weeks, when I suddenly realised that my neighbour Alan had been actually stalking me, and this time everything was done on purpose. I'll give you an example. Once I was in the kitchen trying to cook dinner when I noticed that Alan was staring at me from his window. I would think that this was a coincidence, but when I was in my bedroom and looked out the window, I once again saw him in his attic window, still looking straight at me. I got a little scared and worried, but tried to calm myself down, thinking that my eyes were just playing tricks on me. And you know what? I couldn't sleep well because of all that stuff. I had really bad nightmares that somebody was watching me, like 100% of the time, and I had even woken up in a cold sweat a couple of times. This almost drove me completely nuts, so I decided to go and talk to this strange guy and ask him why he was stalking me. I thought he'd deny that fact, but he didn't even try to. He told me that he'd noticed me trying to film every step of my life on camera. He'd gotten interested in it, and just wondered why I would want to do this. But then he came across my blog page on the internet, saw my post about him, and had gotten offended. After that, he started to follow me on purpose as a sort of revenge. I don't know why, but I became really angry and started to shout at him that he had no right to do that because he scared me a lot. Then I fired a warning shot, saying that if he doesn't stop what he's been doing, I'll call the police. I turned away from him to set off for home when I heard him say that he didn't see the difference between letting people follow you online or in real life. I entered my house so furiously that even my mum, who was in the kitchen, noticed how nervous I was. I didn't want to tell her the whole story, so I just said that I hated that creepy guy who lives across the street from us. She said she just so happened to meet Alan's parents, like for a welcome tea or something, and it turned out that Alan was their adopted son. His whole biological family had died in a big fire less than a year ago. That's why he was so strange, and why he would wear long-sleeved clothing all the time. He'd been trying to hide his scars, and that was definitely the reason he was so distant from everybody else. I kept thinking over that situation for the rest of the day. From time to time, I'd look out of my window at Alan's house, but I didn't see him anywhere. I tried to find him on the internet, but I couldn't. I was looking looking through my blog page again and felt ashamed of my posts about him and for the comments people were making. I felt the need to do something to help this guy, so I deleted all my previous posts and made a new one that was completely different. I told his story there and asked my followers to be more kind to strange people that they think are weird. You can't even imagine the number of well wishes and supportive phrases in the comments that I received over the next couple of days. Some of my followers who had known my address even sent postcards for Alan, asking me to give them to him. I was really inspired and grateful, so I rushed immediately to cheer Alan up with all the stuff. I rushed to his door and just left all those postcards and comments I printed out earlier with a letter of apology from me on his doorstep, 'cause I thought he wouldn't want to talk to me anymore. But I was happy to be wrong. Now Alan and I are good friends. I no longer strive for popularity because I finally understood that there are things in life that are more important than that. If you guys were attentive enough, you picked up on the exact number of followers that I had before noticing Alan on my posts and after that,